something that we take for granted probably more than just about anything else.
You want to talk about breathing a bit? I think that'd be a really interesting topic to get into. Like, it always seems to blow my mind how much breathing actually affects us and how much there is to learn still about breathing.
Dude, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a lot of what I'm doing is like researching other things that relate to just having healthier life foundation. So, but with breathing, they're learning so much. But I was recently listening about like alchemy and stuff, and you realize that actually like oxygen and the way we get energy in our body is like something like over 70% of our energy is supplied through obtaining the oxygen and the energy from breathing and stuff. So if you think about it, like and in our raising, childhoods and stuff, our rearing, whatever, we actually aren't taught like the right way to breathe, because, which is strange. It seems like, okay, well, it's obvious we know how to breathe. It's natural to beings, but actually when you breathe consciously, it's like your body is a machine, and like you can actually dial it into to be performing at its best. Like when you tune a vehicle to run really well, it gets more horsepower, better fuel efficiency, it runs with less noise, it's not rattling, whatever. So with breathing, it's a similar thing. You can learn how to breathe appropriately, like the right way. And one of the main things is that actually people tend to breathe into their shoulders, into their chest, and lift up. You can see the breathing like this. And it's actually not the best way to breathe, because the way your lungs work is it's like a balloon, and when it inflates, it's kind of like downward and then outward. If you imagine putting your hands around a balloon as it inflates, the circumference of that circle starts to grow. So really when you want to breathe into your belly. The diaphragm pulls belly first, and then you expand down and into the belly, and then the chest lifts at the end. So it's actually called a 3-part breath, where you expand into the belly, the chest, and then the upper part, because you get a little bit of breath from lifting in the collarbone area and everything too. So practicing that is like super fundamental to stress relief, especially stress relief, and focus is great too, because when you oxygenate your body, like every system starts to work better. It calms your mind. I like a point that I learned in yoga that was really cool is there's 3 fundamental like vibrational waves happening in your body system, and that's your mind waves, your heart waves, so those 2 vibrationals, and then your breath. And those are 3 different frequencies sort of happening, and yet we really only consciously have control over one. Like you can't actually control your heart rate. You can't just be like, okay, I'm at 44 beats per minute now I'm at 100 whenever I want. Like it's actually controlled based on in response to your breathing. And then your mind waves, you can't actively say, oh, I'm going to come to this like meditative state or whatever by just willing it. I mean, some people can when you get to that level, but what you can do is you can control your breathing. You can start to do a breath that has a longer exhale than an inhale, and that's known to trigger the vagus nerve, which is a nerve that runs from your brain through your heart. So it's direct. It's one of the longest nerves in the body. I think it runs all the way down to your tailbone. And when you trigger that, that's like your stress relief. That's your parasympathetic nervous system, I believe. And so if you ever sat down after a long day and you exhale like, and you sigh it out, that's like an automatic cue to your nervous system to go to rest and restore. So that kind of stuff I think is super helpful in just in anything in daily life all the time. You can just consider like even just, okay, for a moment, let me just sit up and take like 5-10 like conscious breaths, really expand, see what's going on, see if I can relax a little bit, like let some tension go by like really extending the exhale and see how it affects you. And I think it has like unbelievable positive like a ripple effect to what happens with the rest of your life, with your day and everything. As you wind up being calmer, making different decisions, less stress, feeling healthier, sleeping better, all that stuff. So it's funny, you know, we're talking about music, but yeah, for real, breathing is like is foundational to everything.
So like
100%.
to specifically, you know, obviously all of that is really great advice for any human at any time. Is there any way that you specifically use that for production or for like while you're sitting in the chair at your desk? Are there any, like, do you take conscious breathing breaks? Do you, you know, try to stay conscious of your breath while you're working?
Sometimes I think that's a good challenge, and I might have to incorporate that into the production now. Be like, okay, how am I going to actually have this as a practice? But I think with the practice of yoga, you wind up doing breathing consciously. It's really part of the practice of doing yoga is keeping your awareness on your breath while you're doing other things. So you have this focus, it's a centralized focus, kind of like that flow state focus. And when you've been doing it for a while, it comes to a point where that breathing starts to happen naturally. Kind of, you get this, it's called an ujjayi breath, which is kind of a constriction in the back of your throat. And it's like, you sound like Darth Vader, or you sound like the ocean or fogging up a window, like, but your mouth is, if you're breathing through your nose, it's not quite that sound. And what I find is like when I'm getting into states of focus and stuff, I kind of get to breathing like that. Before I'm going to bed, I'm breathing like that. And so it kind of is already now inherent in music production for me, because if I'm sitting there and I'm like breathing and doing my thing, I can hear myself breathing, and it's like I'm trying to hold a yoga pose, except instead of the pose that's like a physical body pose, it's like just doing the production stuff. And yet the practice of feeling that wave of the breath is there. So I've definitely noticed that over like the last, you know, couple years of getting more in depth on yoga, that like I'm waiting in line at the store to check out, I'm breathing and doing a little bit of a stretch or something, and like sometimes not consciously doing it, just listening to my body, and just breathing, like driving, just breathing. It's interesting to be like really you get pretty relaxed. So it's interesting to be super relaxed while you're driving and breathing well and stuff. But I definitely think it would be cool to bring that in. I think it was David Starfire is a producer that's had introduced that idea, that he actually does holotropic breathing. Like he gets up and like, you know, does it for like 20 minutes, which is basically, to describe it quickly, is like hyperventilating. You're just breathing huge deep breaths kind of rapidly, fully in and fully out. That's the Wim Hof method too. And you can get into some pretty interesting states of like consciousness and being just from that. Like you get lightheaded, you could get tingles, you get
It's almost
rushes.
like a body high.
It's totally. And I like that. If you guys haven't tried it, his method's sick too. Like you do it for about 30 breaths, and then you exhale everything out and you hold your breath as long as you can. And it's crazy. You practice it for a little bit. I've been able to hold my breath for about like 3 minutes out. And then when you inhale in, then you get this crazy rush when your body gets actual oxygen back again. But I feel like it resets you. For me, I get like a lot of sensation in my ears, like almost like a ringing, but I can tell because it's the blood getting back in there. And it's really cool. What it does is it hyperoxygenates you when you breathe like that. So it hyperoxygenates your blood. So you really don't have as much of an issue of getting rid of CO2. So you can hold your breath for a lot longer. Obviously, like deep free divers know about that. And then one of the other interesting benefits is like you get more resilient and stronger. So one of the challenges with that is in Wim Hof's method is to do as many push-ups as you can with your breath held out after you've done that. And people report that you can just do like 15, 20% more push-ups than usual, even though you're holding your breath out. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
One thing I found really interesting about Wim Hof is, compared to other meditations I've tried, is when you're consciously breathing in and out at that extent, you can't focus on anything else. It like snaps you into that meditative state by like breath 10.
Yeah, totally. And I don't know if any listeners were focusing on their breath while that.
Oh, I have been.
Oh my God. Like literally like 10 breaths, like focusing on like diaphragm first, then chest, the last 10% is like shoulders. Like I did that like 10 times while I was listening to you, and I was like, man, I already feel better. And
as soon as you said that, sorry, Evan, it feels different, right? Like I wasn't thinking of that consciously in God knows how long. And as soon as you brought that up, it's like that natural ebb and flow.
Yeah.
But sorry, Evan.
No, it just reminds me that I need to practice that enough that it frees the mental bandwidth to do something like music production or ride my mountain bike and have that process going subconsciously in a, efficient manner. And dude, Wim Hof is, I tried it for the first time. Like I first heard about it like last summer, and the use case that I found fucking fascinating is we were at Shambhala and we were getting in the river to it was not hot out. It was like one of the really overcast kind of 55, 60 degree days. And we were getting clean in the river. And I was like, let me try this Wim Hof thing and then get in the river. And before you'd get in and you're like, oh fuck, it's so cold. Like, God, I gotta get out. God. And I literally did Wim Hof and hopped in the river, and I was like, I'm chilling. Or this is nice. This is not stressing my body at all. I could stay here for hours. And I was just like, that is fucking crazy. Mm-hmm. It's just intentional breathing, something that we take for granted probably more than just about anything else. Intentionally doing that can have such a positive impact on your life. I wish there was more people like you, Seancy, to remind me of how important that is on a daily basis, because it's so easy to forget and constantly forget. I know that I'm the least flexible person on the face of the earth, and I constantly try to get better, but breathing past that is completely lost. It's just not something that my brain has a trigger to think about. And it's just as important or more important to being a high functioning individual. I'm so glad, Tesko, I'm so glad that you wanted to center on that, because it just, I can already tell that bringing that to the forefront of my mind is going to make a positive impact on
100%.
I like it. What's up, humans? It's Luke, your friendly neighborhood trap Jesus. Thank you so much for watching our videos. We appreciate you. Remember to like and subscribe to our channels. And if you have any questions or topics that we need to cover on the show, put them in the comments. Appreciate you. Peace, and peace among worlds.